It's time for the Brouhaha Sports Show. Brouhaha Sports with award-winning sports writer Dale McKee and co-host Marshall Wood. Talking sports with the legends of the game and famous sports personalities. Brouhaha. Now to Marshall and Dale with tonight's guest.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brouhaha. Marshall Wood sitting here along with Dale McKee, ready to break it on down again and see what's going on in the world out there. Primarily sports, but you can't ever tell what topic we might, what's the word for that, broach?
Yeah, approach.
What does broach?
Is that something you do with eggs?
No, I mean, let's look it up.
Oh, that's poached.
No, broach. What does broach mean?
You poach.
Let's just
broach
see.
Means you break in.
B-R-O-A-C-H. That's roach. I didn't put a B on it. B-R-O-A-C-H.
Oh, my goodness.
Type it in, Dale. I can't see you. Type it in. Broach.
Broach. All right, what does broach mean? Well, how do you spell it?
B-R-O-A-C-H, I guess.
Yeah, you're the English major.
No. Not me. It raised a sensitive or difficult subject. So we broach, we open, we raise the topic. That's what I was trying to say. So you've learned. You had me questioning myself. I knew what I was saying when I started.
All right, broach is also, in sailing, is an abrupt turn.
It also is to pierce, when it comes to liquor, to pierce a keg or a cask.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You big on that drinking that whiskey and stuff?
What's a keg?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know. What's a cask?
I don't know. I don't even know what a keg is. How you spell it?
They sound like they start with a C or a K.
Oh, I wouldn't know. I mean, my mama.
You've been a writer for how long?
My mother listens to this show.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I do not know
sorry.
what
hey,
you're
listen.
talking about.
No, this was all a ruse. A moose. I set this up to pick it down. No problem.
I don't know what you're talking about. Let's go on.
I'm sorry.
Let's go on to the next subject.
Next subject.
Yeah.
Well,
What
you
say?
dropped a bomb. Oh, me, baby. We could go there, but let's don't go there.
Okay, let's go.
Right. What's going on in sports?
Well, there's a lot of champions. We had a hockey champion. We had a NBA basketball champion. We had a World Series college baseball champion. A lot of champions out there. Hey, the ringmakers are going to make some money.
Well, let's see what we got. Let's see here. I saw something. Is there anything else you want to say about any of these champions? Because I saw something in the first paragraph of you.
I didn't really care about any of them. I still feel for Arkansas. I still felt for the Razorbacks, how they lost.
That was terrible.
Oh, man, I feel so far that left fielder. I told my wife he'll always be remembered for that play.
Yeah.
No matter what else he does at Arkansas, though. Oh, he's the one that,
You know what, though? He's going to be remembered.
Yeah, but they made two other mistakes besides that in that inning, so it wasn't totally on him.
Do you recall a big error, a big mistake, and something like one that sticks out in your mind you've witnessed in professional sports, whatever, the football, basketball, doesn't matter? What's the biggest mess up you've ever seen?
Well, the only thing I remember, and it hadn't happened in a long time, was when years ago when I was like a teenager, I was watching a game, and one of the Minnesota Vikings, he was a very good player named Alan Page.
Oh, part of the Purple People Eaters, buddy. Jim Marshall, Carl Eller, Alan Page.
I believe it was Alan. It could have been Jim Marshall. One of them picked up a fumble.
I think it was Page.
Minnesota was playing San Francisco and ran the wrong way. That's a mistake.
That is a mistake. Didn't Leon Lett do the same thing at Dallas?
Leon did something like he kicked the football toward the end zone, and Miami recovered. Miami was trying to kick a field goal.
Oh, okay.
And it was blocked, and he goes and tries to jump on the pile, and when he does, the ball gets in the end zone, and the Dolphins jump on it. Win on Thanksgiving Day.
Man, poor old Leon.
Old Cowboys used to have some great Thanksgiving games, boy. When old Staubach was out.
Man, Roger Dodger.
Oh, Roger.
The Admiral.
Yep.
Man.
They were really good.
That's when men were men.
Yes.
What is that? Who said that? I've heard that quoted up back. Where that? You're a writer. You know where that might come from? I'm putting you on the spot now, and I don't mean to do that, but I'm giving you a shot.
I think it was. Well, it probably have to be an outstanding leader.
Yeah.
Somebody. How about Charlie Britton? Did you think he said
I
that?
think he said that.
Yeah, I think he
Okay.
did. Well, we'll give him credit.
I've
for
heard
it.
him say some things.
Yeah.
Some of them won't do the repeat. Never mind, Charlie. I'm gonna do it that way.
Anyway. Thank you, listeners, for putting up with us.
Yeah, both of you. Okay. Anyway. We may have already talked about this, but I'm looking at about this ESPN. You know, they got a computer up there at ESPN, and that thing is smart. It makes all kind of stuff, and it says here, this is you. This is Dale McKee stuff telling us that the ESPN computer has generated total wins for several of the major college football conferences for the upcoming season. That's pretty interesting, Dale, about these predictions of win. What do you think? Look at there. You can tell us about the predictions about the SEC and the upcoming wins and where some of our teams may stand.
Well, you know, I hate to make predictions anymore because of the NIL and the transfer portal. You don't know who's going to be there. So when I'm writing an article these days, I have to let somebody else tell me what they think. Because I don't even know who's going to be the quarterback. But it basically said that Texas and Georgia will each win 10 games, and I assume play for the championship again.
Yeah.
Alabama and Tennessee will win 9 games. ESPN has Ole Miss winning 8 games and Mississippi State 4 games.
Okay.
They have those good guys down at LSU. They got them with 8 wins also.
Oh.
But they actually have Ole Miss ranked 5th, A&M 6th, and LSU 7th with the 8 wins.
And that's in the conference?
No, that's overall. Every win, all 11 games or 12 games, however how many they play.
Okay.
And good old Auburn's down there. Old Hugh Freeze is going to win 7, they say. Florida, Arkansas, and Kentucky is only going to win 6. Vandy's 5 wins, and so that. Well, the Big Ten, they had Ohio State and Penn State winning 10 games. And Oregon with 9, and Michigan and USC with 8 wins.
I have a hard time still putting Oregon in the Big Ten.
I do too.
Golly.
Yeah.
What's going on?
I still have a hard time with Arkansas being in the SEC. Anyway, let alone Oklahoma and Texas. Clemson and Miami are predicted to win 10 games, and SMU with 9 wins. I thought that was surprising.
Spending that money.
That's the ACC, yeah. And Louisville and Georgia Tech are predicted to win 8 contests. You know, you're talking about money. I saw with the FedEx president, owner, creator of FedEx.
Yeah.
He passed away this past weekend. He had a heart attack and passed away at 80. You know, he's big Memphis. He's done a lot for the city of Memphis. He helped them get a NBA basketball team and a few other things, a golf tournament, St. Jude's golf tournament. But the biggest thing he did here recently was he donated $20 million to the Memphis University athletic department to use in NIL money.
Wow, that'd be a big difference maker.
Yeah, Memphis may be the.
Yeah. Yep. Listen, who you got for our guest tonight?
Hunter Dawkins.
Hunter Dawkins, the man, the myth, the legend, with us again. Glad to have him. Well, I tell you what, let's take a break to hear from one of our sponsors, and we're going to come right back, Dale and and we're going to have Hunter Dawkins with us. We'll look forward to it. We'll see you after the break.
Phillips Building Supply in Laurel, your hometown building supply store since 1954. We are locally owned and pride ourselves on helping our customers find exactly what they need. From foundations to roofs to doors and windows, Phillips has it. For tools, hardware, lumber, and plywood, visit Phillips Building Supply.
Welcome to the show, Hunter. Good to have you back, Hunter. We just appreciate every time that you volunteer, and Marshall will send you a check one day. I just don't know when. I guess when we get some money in the account. But anyway, we do appreciate you being on the show. And today, listen, we got an interesting thing. I pulled up an article on ESPN about their computer generated predictions for the college football season. And I just want you to tell me what your thoughts about are. First of all, let's start with the great SEC. They predict that Texas and Georgia will win 10 games. What's your thoughts about that? Will they be in the SEC championship game again?
Well, in my prediction right now, Dale, I believe that Texas has got a good enough roster that they can do that. The problem with Georgia is I think that's a very questionable piece that ESPN has put together, because you have no production really from the quarterback. You have no idea of what's going to come out from defensively for that team, and there's a lot of questions, at least from that area. But then again, there's a lot of questions about a lot of teams in the SEC. However, I do predict it'll be a solid SEC season, just like last year was. But I think Texas has got a clear shot, at least to be in the conference championship game.
Okay. Okay, and then it came that Alabama and Tennessee they're going to generate 9 wins. What's your thoughts on those two? Alabama would be, okay. They said
Alabama,
yeah. Tennessee would get 9 wins.
Okay.
They say Alabama will finish 3rd in the SEC. Tennessee will be 4th. What are your thoughts on those two teams?
Well, one of the things is Alabama always has talent, as you know, Dale. But once again, the quarterback scenario, there's nothing really that's really set in stone would be the best way to put it. Tennessee has got a lot of questions. I mean, especially after their quarterback scenario in the summertime, early spring or late spring, early summer. But that's something that's going to happen, and it's kind of difficult to be able to lodge all these exact questionnaires things. I understand ESPN putting things out there just to be a good content piece, to be an early prediction, but there's a lot of questionability, at least on who the quarterback play, offensive play, what's going to happen, at least from that perspective, for most of the teams in the SEC outside of Texas and LSU. Those LSU would be the more likely one that I would think that could probably meet that prediction or something better than what they are already predicted.
All right, what about LSU with 8 wins?
Well, LSU's team will predict a lot of what's going to happen in the first 2 games, Dale. I mean, their first 2 games against Clemson, and I'm trying to remember who the second game was against, but those 2 games are very important games, I know, for that team. And that will predict a lot of what the future tells, at least from the scenario for the year.
Well, now, when I used to go to SEC Media Days, they'd ask us to, do a poll about ranking the teams and things like that. And I always was, I guess I lean toward people with a quarterback returning. LSU has one returning. Texas basically has one that's returning. He just hadn't played a full season and taken the licks over 4 seasons. And I think Alabama's got a capable quarterback in the Simpson kid. And I'm not sure about Tennessee, but I like LSU because of the at least 8 wins because of the quarterback situation. What about Ole Miss? And they're predicting them to win 8 games.
Well, and that's, Lane Kiffin always produces a lot of good talent, and them automatically coming out, playing with Austin Simmons, at least from the start, that feels like there's a lot of confidence. He did show a little bit last year, not a lot, but he did show a very little bit. It's enough confidence in the coach to put him as the main keynote speaker on offense. And I think the 8 wins is a good scenario, but they lost quite a bit, Dale. As you remember, I can't even remember, but at least 8 or 9 of their players got drafted, and not only that, about 15 are on NFL rosters, so they've got a lot to replace. But Lane Kiffin has done an outstanding job with producing talent from transfer portal and other avenues, at least getting them to being a competitive football team.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue up there this year, I think the offense will be okay. It's probably not going to be as well-oiled machine as it was last year with Jackson Dart, but I think it'll be a capable offense. But the defense should worry Rebel fans, correct?
Well, yes and no, because I think the defensive coordinator he brought in is a really solid guy, and he's really a local guy, and he wants to recruit that local talent. And, there's a lot of guys that were on the depth chart that are moving up, and I'm not so certain. What really plagued Ole Miss last year, Dale, was the ground game. And the fact that they couldn't get behind what they had on the ground and not really take advantage. I mean, they were in fourth and short scenarios in some key important games, and they didn't take advantage of what they had on their team, and that's just not acceptable. And really the telltale sign, I think, for this Ole Miss team will be the blocking, offensive line. That's going to be what your question is. How well will that team do? Defensively, there's going to be some gaps. I understand that, but I don't know. It's kind of hard to replace a Walter Nolan and Chris Paul and Trey Amos. Those guys are just absolutely some of the best you could ever have, let alone, putting you in the scenario to win every game, which Ole Miss pretty much was within scoring distance in every single game last year.
Well, that's true. That's very true what you just said. All right, now they also generated Mississippi State would probably win 4 games. You think Blake Shapen returning could give them those 4 wins because they got 4 non-district games, non-conference games, and the only one really I think is going to give them a rough go on that would be Arizona State, or Arizona, one of them.
Yeah.
Is coming to Starkville.
Yeah, you're right. And Arizona State is their second game, first game in Starkville.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's always for me with State, because I covered State last year for Super Talk, and there were some really good moments, and there were some not even questionable moments. I mean, there was just some flat out terrible moments for them. And, I really think the first 2 games are going to define what happens in their season. They can go either 2-0 or they can very easily, or they can go 0-2 very easily. And if they start the season off 0-2, I don't necessarily believe in those 4 wins. But if they start off 2-0, I think there's a very good chance you're going to have a successful season for Mississippi State. However, if there's a 1-1 scenario, it's just kind of week by week by week. I think a lot of it depends on what happens really in the first 2 games, Dale, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think too that they've got a if they could win their 4 non-conference games, that's always a big if, because last year Toledo kind of upset them in a non-conference game.
Not really, kind of. It was a pretty much a demolition.
Yeah, it kind of was. But just look at their schedule. There are a couple SEC teams that they could slip up on. One of them being Arkansas.
That's right. If you get into an undefeated non-conference scenario like you suggested, they could easily pick off a game, maybe 2, maybe 3 against good teams and make a chance at a bowl game. And I think that would bring State fans, really back. But that's why it's kind of hesitant for me to tell you a full-scale scenario. Yeah, they've got the chance to win 4 games. Yeah, but what's going to happen after the first 2? If there's an 0-2 after the first 2, I don't think Levy's going to probably last the whole season if things work out like that.
That's true. Anyway, what do you think about Southern Miss? They didn't really generate the Sun Belt Conference wins and losses. They just took the major ones and or the major 3. And so, what do you think about? You kind of got your ear to what's happening in Hattiesburg. Tell us what your thoughts are.
Well, and I've known Chuck, the head coach, also for a little while, because he was recruiting a kid down in this area and down at least around Gulfport. And I got to know him, and through the Sunbelt Media days, I've gotten to know him just being a former head coach of Marshall and things as such. He's a really good man, and he's got a really solid foundation, a great background. And I really think his background, being a former coach with assistant coach with Nick Saban, it's a telltale factor, because that kind of puts the message on, okay, we have to remain focused as a team and have a purpose as a team. I don't really have it's very hard for me. Of course, a bunch of the magazines, Athlon, Phil Steele, a couple other ones, I think Lindy Sports, all predicted Southern being in fourth place in the West of the Sun Belt Division, which means about 4 or 5 wins. But from the same perspective of that, Dale, if they get to 4 or 5 wins, that's a heck of a lot better than last year, and that's a solid improvement. I really think if they can compete in every game this year, the win total won't really matter as long as they can compete in every game. I think realistically, if they get to a bowl, he should be coach of the year in the Sun Belt if they get to a bowl game. If not, I mean, it's okay if the Southern competes in every single game. And I think that's what they wanted. I know that's what Jeremy McClain thought of, having, Marshall, watching them play. They were competitive in every single game the last 3 years that Huff's been the coach there. And that's something that it's a resounding factor for everybody. So.
Well, listen, one last question. August 30th, Mississippi State's traveling to Hattiesburg to play Southern Miss. 11 o'clock ball game. Oh, my goodness.
I'll be there.
Hot. Anyway.
Be on ESPN.
Yeah. Anyway.
That's your first game of the year on ESPN. I mean, first official week 1 game on ESPN.
How about that? Well, anyway, what's your thoughts about that matchup? Who's got the upper hand here as we talk on June 23rd or June 24th? Yep. June 24th.
Well, I've always heard, and I've always sort of come to the belief that's one of the reasons why Ole Miss and State are not big fans of playing Southern, and I'm really surprised that State agreed to do this, because there's a no-win factor, especially right now for State. There's a no-win factor. You can win, but you're almost supposed to win. If you don't win by 3 touchdowns, then you really didn't win per se. And because of all the resources that the SEC has, they're expected to win, these non-conference lower group of 5 division games very, very resoundingly. But, it's just not really. I really do hope that the Mississippi State at least is competitive. I'm not, asking for a win for either team, but I hope it's a competitive game. But then again, if you're Mississippi State, you ran out wanted a competitive game. But unfortunately, I think that Southern Miss is going to throw them a lot of things that they haven't seen, especially from the Sun Belt Player of the Year in Braylon Braxton. He's going to show them a lot of things that they haven't seen, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's a competitive game.
All right, now you say that Mississippi State's taking a chance, and I have to add on to this last question, Part B. Is Southern Miss taking a chance on playing Jackson State?
Not necessarily, because, once again, you have a team coming off of 1 win. Now, granted, they should easily win that game, and I'm sure, if Jackson State can upset them, then that's pretty much going to be a game that, the USM faithful will be questioning about. But at the same level, you're turning back a 1-game win team that was not competitive at all last year, Dale. I mean, Southern was really not, other than 1 or 2 games, it was really nothing. They really had no business in playing any of those games. And that being said, I really think that whatever happens in that game, as long as it's a competitive game, either way, I think it'll be good. But I wouldn't be surprised. Jackson State is a very competitive team, and they've been very good under T.C. Taylor. And I would not be shocked if there was a little bit of cushion here or there.
Hey, Hunter, it's Marshall, and guess what? We're out of time.
You got it, my friend.
We appreciate you, Hunter, for taking time being with us, and we thank you for it. Listen, we're going to ask you to hold on a minute. Dale and I are going to take a break to hear from one of our sponsors, and we'll be back after this commercial break with the final segment of tonight's Brouhaha. See you in just a minute, folks.
Phillips Building Supply in Laurel, your hometown building supply store since 1954. We are locally owned and pride ourselves on helping our customers find exactly what they need. From foundations to roofs to doors and windows, Phillips has it. For tools, hardware, lumber, and plywood, visit Phillips Building Supply.
Welcome back, everyone, to tonight's little wrap-up of this edition of the Brouhaha. It's always a pleasure to have Hunter with us. I like old Hunter. He's kind of he's one of our, I guess, we probably had him on the show more than anybody, haven't we?
Probably.
Yeah.
He's always available.
He's good.
Yeah, he does.
I like old Hunter.
Yeah, he does a great job for us.
I'm gonna ask you a question.
Sure.
I'm looking around the internet, see these things, and I see they got this little thing right here that says top 20 greatest.
Oh, excuse me.
That's okay. So you start texting and all this happens. Dial in, Dale. Focus. The top 20 greatest Major League Baseball players of all time. Mm-hmm. And who would you think would be the number one? You didn't know, this is ChatGPT. List of 20 greatest MLB players of all time.
Well,
who would you put number one?
Even though he was a long time before me, I've just heard so many great stories about Babe Ruth. Have
you seen this print out? Have you seen this? Because that's who they got.
No, I'm just telling you from growing up, that's all you heard: Babe Ruth, Babe Ruth, Babe Ruth, and so I would say him. But a lot of them Yankees were pretty good. Garrett was pretty good. Joe DiMaggio.
Joe DiMaggio's 12.
You had Mickey Mantle. You got Derek Jeter here lately.
Yeah.
You got some great Yankees there. And
Derek Jeter's in the list.
Of course, my favorite, and I don't know if he'd be in your list, but my favorite, my idol growing up was a guy named Brooks Robinson.
Brooks Robinson.
So I don't know if he'd be on there or not. I don't know if he's one of the 20 greatest, but he was my man.
Yeah.
And then, I'm just trying to think. I assume Nolan Ryan would have to be on the list somewhere, and Ty Cobb and Pete Rose and Barry
Ty Cobb's on there. I'll tell you what they got. They got Babe Ruth, Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, Ted Williams, Barry Bonds, Ty Cobb, Stan Musial, Lou Gehrig, Mickey Mantle, Roger Clemens is the top 10. We'll stop right there. My question to you this: if today,
mm-hmm.
Babe Ruth played today,
mm-hmm.
could he?
I think great players can play it in any era.
That's a good way to put that, Dale.
I really believe that. I just don't know, but I just think that he would be, and a lot of it has to do with health. Mickey Mantle had a lot of injuries, and Mickey Mantle even said one time they said, "Do you consider yourself the greatest Yankee of all time?" And he said, "Well," he said, I can just tell you, the greatest center fielder of all time." He said, "Guys," he said, "Joe DiMaggio was better than me because of the fact Joe DiMaggio took care of himself." And I didn't. He admitted it. He said, "I didn't." And so...
Wasn't it Joe DiMaggio that Kramer saw in the donut shop on Seinfeld?
Mm-hmm.
Whoop, whoop. You remember that episode?
Yeah, putting his donut in the coffee.
That's right. He's a dunker, Jerry. He's a dunker.
Yeah, and Kramer was trying to distract him. Couldn't distract him.
Couldn't break through. Mm-mm. Couldn't break through. It's I'm a little easier distracted than Joe DiMaggio is, but one thing I'm locked in and loaded on is that we're out of time. So, Dale, I appreciate you. I appreciate all that you bring to the Brouhaha table every week. All I got to do is sit over here and look pretty.
There you go.
That's all I got to do.
Okay.
But anyway, we thank our guest Hunter for being with us tonight, and you for joining us at our time on the Brouhaha. I want to remind you that you can follow us on our Facebook page, the Brouhaha, and all of our shows are cataloged for you to listen to on demand at our our YouTube channel called the Brouhaha. But for now, it is time to say goodbye, Dale.
Goodbye, Dale.
We'll see you next week for the more of the Brouhaha. Get us out of here, Jamie.
You've been listening to the Brouhaha with Del McKee and Marshall Wood. Heard Tuesday evening, 6 p.m. on WABO. For more of the Brouhaha, follow us during the week on Facebook and WABO.